Hey you guys, I'm so excited. Today I am going to show you how to make a tissue box cover. I made this box cover today. It is so pretty. I'm going to show you how I will add the inlay. I will show you how I will make the top. Super easy, really cute and really useful. One thing it drives me crazy when I see tissue boxes with no cover is because first of all they are, paper and it looks ugly. They usually have some ugly print on it. And I like to have them look nice in my house, so I usually put a cover on them. The cover also helps when you pull out the tissue, it has some weight on it, so then the box doesn't lift with the tissue. So I really like having these things, so I decided to make them and sell them, and I made this one today and filmed it for you guys to see how I made it. Super cute. I really like the contrast between the yellow heart and the wenge. This is the way it's looking. Let's see how I made it. Let's get right into it. Now to start with, I will start with this piece of wenge. This is 3/4 inch wenge, and I glue a yellow strip on the bottom, and I will explain to you why. But this wenge is 3/4 inch thick, which is a little bit on the thinner side. I usually like to work with a 1 inch or 1 1/4. That would be best. But like this blank over here. But today we will work with this wenge. It's 3/4 inch, and I did put this yellow heart strip. My blank is 12 inches in length, and right now it's about 7 inches on width, but I am going to take it to the table saw and cut it down to 5.5 inches. So I need a blank that is 12 inches long and 5.5 wide. So I'm gonna go to the table saw and trim this to size. My blank is cut to the proper size, 12 inches on length and 5.5 on the width. And the reason why I chose this yellow heart is because one, it gives it some contrast between dark and light. It gives it a color contrast. I think the yellow looks beautiful with the wenge. And then the other reason why I chose it is because I have this beautiful inlay. I don't know if you can see it. It is a walnut and it has yellow heart, little diamond shape and a stripe in the middle. So this inlay strip, it broke from this piece over here, so I figured I might as well use it before I completely break it, and I only have one, so I should use it, and I can't make any mistakes. It has to work on this. I think that inlay strip is going to look so pretty since I already put the yellow heart here. It's gonna give it some really nice detail over there. Now we need to cut this in half on the width. So I need to resaw this piece of wenge, and for that we need to find the center of this wood, and then I'm gonna take it to the bandsaw and resaw it. Now the easiest way to find a half of your material is to use one of this Fit Finder half gauge. It's made by Microjig, and the way they work, you loosen these two green screws on the back, take your blank, put it right here on your wood, tighten the green screws on the back, and now this distance over here, it's always going to be half of the distance that is here. So now you can easily take this piece, put it on your edge and mark the half, and then you know that is the center of your board. So I'm gonna take this to the bandsaw and resaw this piece. I went ahead and resaw my board in half, so now it looks like this, but the bandsaw leaves rough edges, so I will need to sand this to get it all smooth. Now the parts that were in the inside of the board, it will become the outside of the board, and this is how you will get that whole wraparound grain on all four sides. It's gonna be really hard to see this with the wenge, so I'm going to show you with my cherry piece. You'll be able to see that better. So here is that cherry piece that I resaw. So it's like this. So when you resaw a piece right in the middle, when you open it like a book, like this, that's why this is called book matched. And you see how the grain just matches perfectly here. Also, if you do it like this, will also match perfectly. So we get some really cool effects here. Now what we want to do is to have the grain continue on the end of our board. So if I just take this board and put it like this, it doesn't match the grain. So what you need to do, once you open your piece of wood like a book and you get this book match, you want to take a piece and rotate it like this. And now look at that, our grain flows perfectly on this side. And then also, if I rotated the other side like this, the grain matched perfectly on this side as well. So this will give us a box that basically the grain goes all around 4 sides, merging perfectly. So what I need to do with my Wenge piece, this is my Wenge piece and I resaw it on half. Now, even though I marked my half, I was not perfect. This side, it's a little bit thicker than this side. So what I need to do is remove as little material as I can from the side that was on the inside, because those are going to become my outsides. I hope this makes sense. So I'm going to remove as little material as I can from here, just enough to get rid of this waviness from my bandsaw. And then once I got rid of the waviness and it's smooth, then if I need to remove any thickness from this one, because this one is thicker, I will remove it from the other side. That will be my inside of the box. So first I will send it through the drum sander, remove just enough to get it smooth. Then if I need to take anything out of the thickness, I will do it from the other side. So I'm gonna go do that right now. I sanded the boards and now you can see when I rotate this, we will get a really nice grain flow onto this side. And then if I rotate it the other way, we will get some really nice grain flow this way as well. Now I don't want to get confused, so I am going to mark my boards just so I know. So these parts are going to be my insides, my outsides. They were the insides, they're going to be the outsides. And my board is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 when I cut it. So now that my boards are marked and I know exactly which way they will flow when I have to cut them into pieces and glue them together, now it's time to do that inlay. To create a groove for the inlay, I'll be using my router table and a router bit. This inlay was marked as a 1/4 inch inlay, so I'll be using a 1/4 inch router bit, barely raised up. I want to make a groove that is a little bit shallower than my inlay, and then put the inlay in. And if the inlay sticks out just a little bit, that will be so much easier to sand than if I make the inlay deeper and then I have to send the whole box back to inlay to get it all flush. So let's go to the router table and set it up to put the inlays in. Now I have my tiny piece of inlay that I broke before, and I'm gonna use this to test fit, make sure that everything looks nicely. I also have a scrap piece of wood that I will be using to test my groove depth. And as you can see, I already tested twice before with the same blocks, and now I'm gonna do it on this other side. So I have my 1/4 inch bit in there, and now I have to put the fence. Now remember, this is going to be our outside edges, so that's where we need to put the inlay, and we have to figure out exactly where do we want our inlay placement. And I want it kind of above this yellow line, but not too far up to the blue line, kind of just somewhere in there. So let's see. I'm gonna set up my fence. So now I have the position of my fence all set up. It's time to take this scrap piece of wood through the machine and test for the depth. Let me turn on my dust collector. I won't be talking through this. I will just do it and you can watch me do it. And then I'll stop everything, and before I do it on the real piece of wood, I will explain to you my findings. So 1/4 inch router bit, my inlay fits perfectly into that groove. It is a little bit in the snug fit, so sometimes when you put glue, the wood expands a little bit and then you find that your inlay doesn't fit. Also, when it comes to height, the inlay sticks out just a tiny little bit, so that should be easy to sand. So the depth is good, and I think we're just gonna go with it. We're gonna do it and see what we get. So I'm going to put my grooves. They go into the part with the blue tape because that's gonna be my outside. And I have to make sure that my yellow stripe is towards the fence, so I place both of my inlays on the same location, so they're gonna go like this on the blue side. So let's do that. All right, you guys, my grooves are made, and now it's time to cut my inlay to fit the size of my planks. If I just take this inlay to my table saw or the miter saw and just cut it, this thing is going to shatter into a million pieces. So I'm going to use a little hand saw thingy. You can find this at Rockler, Woodcraft, I think everywhere, Amazon. So this thing has like grooves into this metal aluminum piece. This is for 90 degrees, so cuts. This is 45s for each side of the corner. So I'm just going to put my inlay in there and just cut it just like that with my little hand saw. I'll put a link to it in the description below if you're interested in purchasing this little thingy. So let's see. I will measure how long I need the strip. So I need it about this long. Maybe I'll make it hang a little bit on the outside, have a little extra there. So I'm gonna cut it, let's see. Maybe I don't want it to be, maybe I'll cut it right after this yellow diamond here. Can't see anything, can't you? Let me bring it closer. So my design has a yellow diamond here, so I'll cut after the yellow diamond, somewhere around there. So now with my little jig here, there you go. So that is one piece, and this piece is going to go over here. And then I want to make sure that my design continue, because right now it just ends to a diamond, and if I cut this to end with a diamond here, then we'll have two diamonds next to each other. So we want to make sure that everything has a nice flow. So I'm going to start this right after the diamond, something like this. So let's see, I'm gonna cut this over here. Now, normally I would just use wood glue to glue these guys, but because I'm in a rush and this is just for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna use CA glue, and it's totally fine to use CA glue. There is no stress on this stuff. It will hold just fine. Actually, most furniture maker and guitar makers, when I see them do inlays, they just use CA glue. Oh, and I forgot to put the accelerator, so that's okay. It will just take an extra minute to dry. And dry to my fingers, I can see. Okay. All right, for this one, no more mistakes. I'm gonna put my design over there, put some CA glue in the groove, spray my inlay with the activator, and glue it in place. I think I got some super glue on my fingers. All right. Oh, that is such a nice contrast. All right. I'll have to figure out how to get this super glue off my fingers later. What I need to do now is cut these two guys in half or close to half because I need 4 pieces to make a box. All right, here we are at my table saw. I do have a table saw sled. I have a crosscut table saw blade. It has 80 teeth. And there's my planks. I know they will go in this order, 1, 2, 3, 4. I will close it like a book. I have a stop block at 5 3/4 inches. So I'll take my first piece, cut it, then move it over, cut the end, and then I'll take this one and do the same thing. And we should have 4 pieces that are equal size. So let's do that now. All right, you guys, here we are. I cut my 4 pieces, and you can see if I put them back by number, now 1, 2, 3, and 4, our grain continuously goes nicely, and then when the 4th will meet with 1, that also goes in nicely. So now it's time to put miters on each end, and yes, I will do miters, and I'm not going to reinforce them with splines, because this wenge is $27 per board foot, and I feel like it's already so pricey. The inlay strip, it's $15 to $20 per strip. So if I do splines as well, I feel like 1, it will be too much from the design element point, and then 2, the box is gonna end up $150. So I think miters are gonna do just fine. Right, you guys, it's time to glue our pieces together. So I will be dry fitting them, and I like to use the edge of my sled. I know my table is flat, so I'm just gonna use this just like this. Then we'll go to the bench, and that's where we'll put the glue and so on. I want to make sure my inlay strip lines up perfectly. My miters look great. That is going to look fantastic. I am going to use Tide Bond 3. I have it in a ketchup bottle here, and it's the strongest glue I know. So I am going to glue this together. Now, since we're gluing with no splines, one trick to get better glue ups and not have a fail when it comes to miters is to put a thin layer of glue, let it dry a little bit, and then reapply the glue and then close the box. The first layer of glue, it's thin, just like this, and what it does, it closes those end grain, and because the first layer of glue you put in, it kind of gets soaked into the end grain. So I'm just going to seal the end grain with a thin layer of glue, let it sit for a few minutes, then I'm going to put a second layer of glue and close the box. Make sure your ends meet perfectly and your inlay meets perfectly. And here is the corner where we ended up. You see the stripes goes very nicely. And now we have to put some thick rubber bands. These rubber bands are the rubber bands number 107. They're a little bit too loose for this, but it's gonna work. I also have the number 105. Those are shorter by 2 inches. Those are a little too tight for this. Now while the box is drying, it's time to work on the lid. I have a piece of wenge here. This is almost a 6 by 6. and I need to make it into something like this. Now I made this template because every time you do something repeatedly and you want to make a whole bunch of the same thing, it's best to make a template. It makes your life a lot easier. So this template is 6 by 6, and the hole in the middle, you use a Forstner bit and you make a hole here, and then you connect the two holes, and that's how you get this oval shape. For reference, mine it's 3 inches long, the oval, and it's about 1.5 inches wide. So that is the size of my hole. So what I'll be doing now is I'll put these two together and I will trace with the pencil my hole, and then I'm going to take it to the scroll saw, cut this hole close to my template line, and then I will put some double-sided tape, glue these pieces together, take it to the router table and use a flush trim bit to make it exactly the same as this hole and get a nice clean cut. I hope that makes sense. So let's do that together now. Everything is looking great. I got my shape on the lid. I made the one, a cherry one for my cherry box. Remember, I was showing you about the continuous grain. So this is the cherry box all glued up. And now what I need to do is this box tops. They have very, very sharp corners here. So that makes it so when you pull out the tissue, sometimes it rips the tissue. So what I'm gonna do is put the small round over on both sides, one in here and one in here, and they're just gonna make it so the tissue slides nicely without ripping. So I'm gonna do that now. Also, this is the time when you want to sand inside the box, because once you glue the top on, you are not gonna be able to sand so well inside, but right now you can really put, what I like to use is the sponges, because they fit right nicely against the edge. And you can really sand it really easily by hand, so it doesn't take much at all. The sponges, they come in medium grit, you know, like, I don't know, rough, medium, fine, super fine. So I use those. So I'm gonna do that. I'm going to sand my boxes, and then after I sand them, I will also do the roundovers on these guys and sand these guys. And then to glue them, what I like to do, I don't like to use clamps, because when you put the clamp, sometimes it slides and it moves. So what I like to do is I will just put my lid on my, tabletop surface or something, and then I'll put the box on top, make sure that everything gets centered, and then I'll put the weight on the top and just let it sit overnight. So I'm gonna go do all of this stuff now. I'll be sanding the inside, put the round over, sand the top, and then glue it and let it dry overnight. And then tomorrow I will see you back for the finish. One quick router tip if you're brand new to routing: when you are routing something inside a shape like this, you will go clockwise. If you're routing the outside of the shape, then you want to go counterclockwise. I believe when you do it to the router table, I think it's the opposite because the router is upside down. But with handheld router, that's the way it goes. Inside you go clockwise, outside you go counterclockwise for safety. All right, you guys, it's been a few hours now. The box is dry, excuse me, and I just sent it. And I realized for the last few clips, I forgot to turn on the microphone. So if the sound is bad, well, I apologize. Here's the way the box is looking. As you can see, the grain continues on all four sides. It's looking really, really nice. So I'm happy with that. Our inlay looks really nice. It's flush, like you can't feel any difference between the wood and the inlay. So everything looks nice. It meets nicely at the corners. So everything is great. Now what I need to do is take one of my fine sanding sponges and kind of break down all the edges. And even though I have really nice sharp edges, I want to break them down because I want it to feel nice to the touch. You don't want that sharp edge where you like cut yourself or get a splinter. Especially wenge is very prone to splinters. So I'm gonna go all around all the edges and kind of soften them a little bit with this sponge. So let's do that. I gave my box a little sanding. It's looking fantastic. Now it's time to apply the finish. For the finish, I'll be using this Walrus furniture finish. And this is a mixture of all kinds of oils, including tung oil. And so I will be doing that. I'll let it dry until tomorrow, and then tomorrow I'll come back and buff it with my Carnauba wax finish. So I'm not going to show you doing that. You've seen me apply my products many, many times. I don't want to sound like I keep promoting my own stuff. So let's go on and put this oil finish on this. I think I completely forgot to press the record button, but this is the oil. It's on the surface. I rubbed it in with this applicator, and it's looking fantastic. I'm gonna let this sit for about 15 minutes, and then I am going to wipe it off. Sometimes when I have open grain wood, I like to take a 400 or 600 grain grit sandpaper and kind of rub in the oil. And this will make like a slurry and fill in all the pores and make the wood feel a lot more smoother. Look how pretty that looks. Isn't that really cool? Very, very nice wood combination. And the white tissues, you know, when they're gonna stick out, it's really gonna stand out against that black wenge. I am very, very happy with the way it turned out. I think it's super cute. Like I said, it is a little bit on the thin side. I wish I had a thicker wenge, but it's gonna be just fine.